Ready?
You good.
Hi, Dr. Rand. This question is regarding low testosterone levels. I am 28 years old, no previous steroid usage. My total test levels were 11.7 nanomoles per liter, range was 10 to 35. My SHBG was 42, range was 10 to 50, and my calculated free testosterone levels were 198 picomoles per liter, and the normal range here was 225 to 725. My free androgen index was 27.9, and the range there was 20 to 160. I'm not laughing, except that, yeah, we got this one nailed for sure. The doctor played it down and said it's a little low, but obviously I know it's a disgustingly low level for someone my age. The total test translates into about 330 nanograms per deciliter, and the average for even an 80-year-old male is higher than that. My biggest concern right now is fertility. We are trying to conceive, and I'm worried that this also means my sperm levels are in the gutter also. We've tried for 3 months without success, but I know it takes more time than this. I am being retested in 1 month time, and this time they will test my LH and FSH also. Not sure if it's related, but they also tested my thyroid since the symptoms were fatigue and low energy. TSH was 6.26, and the range is 0.4 to 4. He also downplayed this, saying that even though the level is not ideal, it isn't bad enough to be causing me my symptoms. To sum up my question, does low testosterone level always mean low sperm count, or can sperm count be adequate on low testosterone? Also, what's likely to be causing an underactive thyroid and a low testosterone level, or maybe these two aren't related and they are separate problems I have? I can put up with low energy and fatigue and all of this, but my number one priority is definitely fertility for the time being. Thank you very much for taking the time to answer my question, Frank. So, yeah, it sounds like we've got a young male with low testosterone and fatigue, some signs and symptoms of low testosterone. There are also numbers here which represent and signs and symptoms here of hypothyroidism. Again, we have to break that down somewhere along the line here into, is this just hypothyroid? Is this an autoimmune reaction? Is it Hashimoto's? You'll treat it the same, but there are some different aspects to both of those. Anyway, it definitely, signs and symptoms, or symptoms of low testosterone cross over with signs or symptoms of low thyroid, but it looks like you've got both going on here at the same time, which at age 28, it's a little late, but I don't know how long this has been going on. It would lead me to suggest an MRI of the brain to rule out a pituitary microadenoma, because you've got two hormones here, and that's all I got, which are relatively low, and that could mean that we've got an issue with the pituitary and it's affecting all of them. Not necessarily what's going on here. Depending upon how stressed we are, testosterone levels will drop. And of course, I can talk about moving to Bali and being a beach boy, but what are the odds of that happening? In other words, hey, yes, lower stress levels could help you, but practically speaking, and this does come up an awful lot, especially living here in LA. I argue just in the 21st century, even if I just told you, hey, well, lower your stress levels, that puts stress on you. Okay, well, I got to lower my stress so I can lower my, or I can raise my T. So, practically speaking, since the number one priority here is fertility, first of all, to answer the question, no, low T does not necessarily mean you have low or certainly zero sperm count at all. It doesn't take that much. The Leydig cell produces testosterone, the Leydig cell in the testicle itself. The Sertoli cell is right next to it, and it produces these sperm cells, these sperms. It requires local prime, the Sertoli cell does, from the Leydig cell to get it to work, and it doesn't require that much. Okay, once that sperm has been birthed, if you will, then systemic testosterone can keep that sperm alive and well and kicking, literally swimming. But without this local prime of very little, but a prime nonetheless, the Sertoli cell won't work. Well, if you're producing some testosterone, which clearly you are, then presumably the Sertoli cells are doing their job. There's no, if I have more, I mean, I'm sure there's a curve, but I don't think it's a linear curve, more testosterone and more sperm. But, down on the low end, I'm certain that it's rounded, and you're not dropping off into nil just because you're close to nil with testosterone. In other words, as long as you have that minimum amount, you probably have a healthy enough. Assuming there's nothing else involved here with infertility, you wouldn't have any problem with a sperm count sufficient to conceive. The TSH is definitely high. This is a one-time reading, though. If this is consistent, and as I've said or earlier today, it's very volatile, TSH, and more so even the thyroid hormone itself. If it's repetitively high, the TSH, and the thyroid low, then yeah, we got a problem here. But as I also said earlier, we talked about testosterone and thyroid being related. It may be a matter of just raising testosterone, and then the thyroid will come up enough that you don't need to use replacement therapy. But again, to answer the question, well, again, these questions this week seem to all tie together well. I hope we play them in some sort of order that, because I don't want to repeat all over again what we've already talked about. But yeah, again, low testosterone levels are related to low thyroid counts, and more specifically by raising through replacement therapy testosterone levels, often we can get thyroid levels to rise to a normal or optimum level also. And again, yes, this could be a source. Both of those could be a source for energy and fatigue. But if anything, if by reducing stress and eating right and sleeping well, if all the things you do to make yourself healthy don't resolve what is presumed, but not necessarily correctly presumed to be a low sperm count, then the first choice would be HCG. Tell your body to produce more testosterone, and therefore get the Sertoli cells to get working more. A lot of people look to HMG. They say, well, gosh, that works directly on the Sertoli cell. But as I described earlier, that's usually not the problem. The Sertoli cells would work just fine as long as they had the prime. So focus on getting the Leydig cells up to snuff, and the Sertoli cells typically, in my experience, work just fine. You don't need HMG. It's expensive. It's superfluous more times than not, for sure. But I would get a semen analysis before you make any moves. You're assuming something that isn't necessarily true at all.
Right. Awesome. Thank you, Doc. Hi, Doc. I'm 48 years old. I'm a 48-year-old male. I was diagnosed with hypogonadism. How do you say?
3 times real fast. Hypogonadism.
Hypogonadism. About 3 years ago. My current doc has me on 1.5 cc of test-cypionate every 5 days, assuming it's 200 milligram per cc. In the beginning, I did feel a lot better, more energy, increase in sex drive, etc. Just feeling overall a lot better. My doc has my blood work checked regularly. I stay in the gym, and I'm pretty good shape for my age. My T level now is around mid-scale. It's now about 2.5 mid-scale. We don't know what scale, but it's now been about 2.5 years of therapy, and the effect seems to not be as effective as it first started. Would it be crazy to talk to my doc about going to 2 cc every 3 days, based on the half-life of the testosterone and the peak time of 24 to 48 hours? Seems like it would benefit by increasing milligrams and reducing time in between shot. Thanks, Doc.
Well, first of all, 1.5 cc's of testosterone cypionate every 5 days.
Would be 300.
That's an awful lot of testosterone, and yet he says, right, that my T level now is around mid-scale. So if someone's injecting 1.5 cc's every 5 days, in my experience, their T levels are going to be off the charts. LabCorp tops off at 1,500 nanograms per deciliter typically. I would think that that's what you're going to see no matter when you test. So up front, that seems weird to me. So I would like, okay, are you sure it's 1.5 cc's? Are you sure it's testosterone cypionate?
Yeah.
Who's giving it to you? Are you getting it at your doctor's office? Or are you giving it to yourself?
Yeah.
I just, this is odd. But whatever the dose is, if your titer is in mid-range, then based upon what I just said, if mid-range is anywhere, well, if the range is 4 to 1200 to make it easy, okay, mid-range would be 800, and we just talked about that. If it's below or hovering around mid-range, then okay, yeah, it's suspect for underdosing. Combined with the clinical signs and symptoms, he's saying, hey, I don't feel good. Okay, so the numbers are iffy, but then more importantly, I don't feel good. I don't feel like, and he had felt better at one time, so he had relief of symptoms. They were resolved for a while. Then, yeah, I would look to the T. But here's the thing that probably everyone is going, hey, but Rand, what about estrogen? This guy could be, and he hasn't mentioned anything about it, but if you just stick with the theory, why would this guy who's taking a cc and a half every 5 days have low T? If it were getting converted to something else, that would certainly do it. He doesn't talk about his estrogen here or his dihydrotestosterone. If you're converting a lot, like remarkably a lot, then yeah, maybe that's what's going on. Maybe the E2, the estradiol's off the roof, off the charts, excuse me, or the dihydrotestosterone's off the charts. I don't know. We don't have enough information here, but certainly, that's very, very suspect, because I can't think of any other reason unless he's getting. This isn't really testosterone cypionate 200 milligrams per ml. It's not really 1.5 mLs. So the answer to the question would be not necessarily, okay, do I go to 2 cc's every 3 days, but yeah, you might want to consider, for just the testosterone portion of this, dosing yourself so that you get above mid-range. Certainly you want your mean, or actually your lowest assay, the lowest point right for your next injection, to be 800 per the studies and per what we know. But that, again, maybe it's more for him. I don't know. But that's the first thing we jigger, and however that comes to in the numbers, yeah, and presumably it would require an increase. And yeah, if you're trying to get more even titer, so you don't have as much up and down, yeah, more frequent dosing is can do that, but then you start to, again, get into defeating the purpose of using an ester. But that having been said, I rarely increase, I don't increase the dose per injection, never more than a cc at a time. If anything beyond that, I will increase the frequency.
Why?
Well, you don't want to have as big a peak in a valley. If you've got 7 days and you increase the dose, you're going to have a bigger peak and valley in that period than if you do the same dose but shorten it up. You'll have
more stable.
So that's easy. And the body works that way too. It's not linear the way it reacts. For example, if you get to a point where your testosterone goes beyond a certain point, your body will start to convert more estrogen from testosterone than if you were lower than that, and in the body's comfort zone, if you will. Like blood sugar, you'll get less of an insulin reaction if you don't really spike it all at once, than if you just sort of barely get above that homeostatic range. So that's part of the reason. But again, I would definitely look into. I'd want to know before I answered anything else with this guy. What's your DHT level? What's your estrogen level? What's going on here? It's not going to go backwards into something up the chain. It would have to be something below testosterone, estrogen, or DHT.
Awesome. Thank you, Doc.